The United Nations has postponed a vote on a resolution to end the fighting in Gaza, prompting Israel to increase its attacks on the territory. The United Nations Security Council postponed voting on a resolution proposed by the Arab League calling for an immediate end to hostilities, as Israeli forces continued their lethal assaults on Gaza and raided the city's sole operational hospital on Tuesday. Associated Press journalists who witnessed the bodies being brought to two local hospitals early Tuesday saw at least 3 casualties and at least 25 casualties, including women and children, from an attack on a Rafah home where displaced people were taking refuge. The health ministry in Gaza reports that since Israel's declaration of war on Hamas, nearly 20,000 Palestinians have been killed. The ministry does not distinguish between civilian and combatant deaths. The United Nations estimates that thousands more are buried beneath the debris of Gaza. Following a Hamas raid in southern Israel on October 7 that killed approximately 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and captured about 240 hostages, Israel reported the death of 127 of its soldiers in its ground offensive. A resolution calling for an end to hostilities in Gaza so that aid can be delivered has been postponed for a vote by the UN Security Council. In response to assaults on commercial ships in the Red Sea, the Pentagon has announced a new worldwide mission. Some see the same kind of excessive force used against Palestinians in Israel's murder of 3 hostages. Commercial shipping in the strategically important Red Sea corridor has been disrupted due to Houthi attacks. https://apnews.com/hub/Israel-. Hamas war is where you can find additional coverage from AP. The current state of the war is as follows: soldiers suspended by the Israeli army. A number of Israeli soldiers have been placed on suspension after being caught on camera joking and smoking a water pipe in the presence of blindfolded Palestinian detainees in the West Bank city of Jenin, which is occupied by Israel. A video has gone viral in the last 2 days. In the video, soldiers can be seen laughing and snacking while at least 7 Palestinians sit in the same room, blindfolded. A representative from the Israeli army stated, "The behavior of the soldiers in the videos is deplorable and stands in stark contrast to the values of the IDF, Israel Defense Forces." A spokesperson for the military announced that the reserve duty soldiers would be suspended until further notice following a disciplinary hearing, urging Biden to press Israel to restrict civilian damage. U.S. veterans in Congress. Several veterans serving in the United States Congress have asked President Joe Biden to use all our leverage to get Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to reverse a military policy that has killed thousands of civilians in Gaza. A group of 6 senators and a representative from each state wrote an open letter to Vice President Biden, stating, "The mounting civilian death toll and humanitarian crisis are unacceptable and not in line with American interests, nor do they advance the cause of security for our ally Israel." All 6 politicians were Democrats: former Navy pilot Mikey Sherrill, Air Force officer Chrissy Houlihan, Marine Seth Moulton, former Marine Jason Crow, and former CIA officers Alyssa Slotkin and Abigail Spanberger make up the 6. Netanyahu is under increasing pressure to limit his massive air and ground campaign, and this letter adds to the pressure from Biden's own congressional party. These representatives are members of the House Committees on Defense, Intelligence, and Foreign Affairs. A few of us also devoted a great deal of time to the American fight against terrorism. You can't destroy a terror ideology with military force alone, the lawmakers wrote, drawing from personal and frequently painful experience. So, we're begging you to keep using all the power we have to get a major change in military strategy and tactics in Gaza right now. To avoid a U.S. veto, the UN Security Council has decided to postpone voting on a ceasefire resolution. At the Global Games, in an effort to prevent the United States from vetoing another resolution, the United Nations Security Council has postponed a vote on a resolution that calls for an end to hostilities in Gaza and is sponsored by Arab countries. The resolution was postponed from Monday at 5 p.m. to Tuesday morning, according to the Council. Diplomats said that efforts were underway to persuade the United States, Israel's most important ally, to either abstain or vote in favor of the resolution. The resolution that was put up for discussion on Monday morning urged for an urgent and sustainable cessation of hostilities so that humanitarian aid could be delivered to the many civilians who are in dire need of food, water, and medicine without obstruction, according to the diplomats, who spoke on the condition of anonymity due to the private nature of the discussions, the United States is likely to back a suspension of hostilities or similar language in order to tone it down. Despite the fact that a resolution passed by the Security Council is legally enforceable, many actors still opt to disregard the Council's demands for action. Although they do not have any force of law, resolutions passed by the General Assembly serve as a strong indicator of global sentiment. A resolution calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza had the support of nearly every member of the Security Council as well as dozens of other countries. However, the United States vetoed the resolution. With 23 abstentions, the 193-member General Assembly passed a comparable resolution on December 12 by a score of 153 to 10.